Gary Waterman, a former UK Police Constable. Welcome to part 2 of my evidential research document in relation to CERN, the Hadron Collider. Please go and look at part 1 if you haven't seen it for a summary in relation to what's been going on. A couple of corrections from part 1 where I got a bit tongue-tied. First of all, the director or producer of Terminator 2 was not David Cameron, it was James Cameron. Although they're very likely related in some way, it would not surprise me because they are both very significant in relation to this. I also said that the Balfour Declaration was in 1947. My apologies, it was 1917, and that was because I was in the middle of talking about 1947 and 48 and the Israel-Arab War, which is all very relevant to this. And what we're going to show you now, please verify and corroborate all of the information. You don't have to trust me. Go and check it yourself to see that it's true. And you can do that on the Companies House registration system or other internet resources being used. We were looking at the Israel attack, 7th October 2023, evidential research document, how it ties in, and it linked in with the entertainment industry. So I'm just going to show a little bit more of that. A connection through to 5 Girls Limited, which then links in as fraud throughout, by the way. Okay, it's not just me showing random companies. There's criminal, fraudulent activity all the way through this. This appears to be a forged document on it, linking to Waterloo's. My Ruby Shoes Productions, just found that interesting. Bear in mind, you've got the Red Shoe Club, and then you have a link to the Spice Girls Limited. If you haven't heard of the Red Shoe Club, it supposedly ties in with international child trafficking, and I've got other evidence tying that into McDonald's as well. Ronald McDonald wore red shoes. He's a clown. Okay, so anyway, Spice Girls Limited. And they're linked to the fraud. ICC company formations, which actually goes back and links to Robert Maxwell. And here's Victoria Beckham and the other Spice Girls on there. And within a week of me releasing this evidence previously, okay, on a video, David Beckham became the ambassador for youth and went to a meeting at the World Economic Forum. Okay, and of course, the football industry is massively connected to this. Here we have Great Britain Limited, Global Strike Limited, Monster Productions, all coming in from this research very quickly. And talking of football, another football club, Manchester City, Football Club City, company, Manchester Music. And then I did research surrounding the Manchester Arena bombings that seems to link back into the same companies. Fraud throughout, and I just picked some companies on one of the incorporation documents here. To them researching that they were Christian organisations, supposedly. And remember, they've infiltrated all religions, everybody, all faith groups, as part of an international deception. Very likely have altered scriptures to fit the narrative of this international government fraud. I absolutely believe in a creator because I believe I'm being guided by them, and they are good, I believe. But I can't put a name on them now because of the deception is so vast. We then have links to the banking system, HSBC. I'm not going to go through all of this. YMCA connections again, which ties in with the World Trade Center disaster. And then we have links to Durham companies and KMFM. Okay, in Canterbury, that then ties in with the Archbishop of Canterbury. Remember, this is all coming in from the supposed attacks, which I believe were staged in Israel on the 7th of October 2023, as I'm exposing the fraud. And we have London Law Agency on the documents here, Barclays PLC, OBE, Thomas Norrington, Barclays links, as I've said, fraudulent bank companies, never should have been allowed to trade, and the government would know exactly that they were fraudulent and criminal and what they were doing. And we have more religious companies, Institute for Jewish Policy Research and the Movement for Reform of Judaism, Trans World Radios with Trans World Connections. I suspect trans is literally trans, linking in with transgender, because there's various trans companies through the research. And then we have Children's Traffic Club Limited. I mean, it's quite blatant, isn't it, according to this? Or they're certainly making it appear blatant for the right person to find the evidence, okay? This is quite key, and I'm going to come to that in the theory towards the end of these videos. Fraudulent company, another football club in liquidation at the time of this document. Any named company, they've actually called a company Any Named Company Limited, just a mockery. And then we're linking to Booker. Okay, this is coming from that child traffic club company, and Booker is fraudulent and connects to Tesco's. Jordan's and Sons on Booker's incorporation documents, fraudulently registered. Another Booker company started in 1924, so quite old companies. Kent Bacon Company, meat companies, child traffic, food chain. Okay, do I need to say any more? Here we have Eversheds, and Eversheds do feature tying in closely to the police-associated links to this international government fraud. And just to confirm, Booker is part of the Tesco's chain. Okay, so Tesco's, just a few articles here linking in with Tesco's, with Booker. And then we hit Royal Companies again, the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. Started in 1970, the year before the World Economic Forum started. You can see they changed their name at no other time other than on the 10th of June, when I'm starting to make significant inquiries with an Export Manor Freehold Limited, and that's almost a month to the day before I approached Anthony Roberts, the acting chairman, who subsequently resigned, to look at the forged bank documents. Then you have the soul of Europe. Okay, remember, we're talking about a spiritual war here, a battle between good and evil, and an infiltration and mass deception against humanity, and they've put it within the evidence. Okay, it's there, the soul, the spirit. And we have connections back in to the Royal Television Society, British Academy for Film and Television, tying in with the entertainment industry. And we have Sean Woodward linking into Childline, which has featured before. Research surrounding the arena, Manchester Arena, then ties into Atlas Hotels. Okay, now that links to very quickly to the research of Jeffrey Epstein, and Atlas we're going to come to later, because Atlas links in to the CERN Hadron Collider. Okay, it was one of the experiments to do with CERN and the Higgs boson particle, and we'll come to that later. Here we have Manchester Music Companies and Virgin Companies then. Okay, some of you may have seen my evidence in relation to the Siemens helicopter crash. Virgin Companies all the way through it. This one is a fraudulent company created with Swift Incorporations and Jordan's and Sons Limited, the same companies that started Export Manor, whereas removed from for refusing to file forged bank documents, and that initiated by Deborah Fleming. Here's an American Express company, changed its name before and after the World Trade Center disaster. Linked to the fraud. And then we hit Edinburgh Companies, Dungeon Companies, gagging for it. I'm only showing some of this, okay? I can't show all of it, but it's literally blatant crime all the way through. G4S, that's Group 4 Security, which then ties back into the Association of Police and Police Chief Officers, which then ties in with my colleagues in Dorset, because Sir Paul Condon, who was the Metropolitan Police Chief Constable, was linked to Group 4 Security and to BAE Systems via Company's House. And this company, G4S Wacker was created in 1973, 2 years after the World Economic Forum. And then we have connections to Legal and General. And on their incorporation document, Nigel Leonard Blood. Not only do we have companies linking this together, okay, we actually have names, the same names on the incorporation documents now, evidencing all of this fraud, okay? And you can see they had previous names of British Gas, because they share each other's company names and chop it and change it around to remove the accountability, launder money, and commit crimes against humanity. And that was Legal and General with Nigel Leonard Blood, and we're going to come to that very name later and how that ties in to specifically to the CERN Hadron Collider. And here we have Zurich Companies, so tying in with Switzerland, more Group for Security companies. And then we have Jewish companies again. Friends of the London Jewish Culture Centre Limited. As I've said before, I do not believe these are true Jews. Okay, they've made it look like that because that then enables them to fit the scripture, potentially falsified, but to fit the scripture to then manipulate events moving forward in relation to falsified prophecies. Then we have European healthcare, so tying into healthcare. Another name that features a lot, Michael John Hope. You'll see that on a lot of the forged incorporation register systems. And that name links to the London Law Agency, which is criminal, and was founded the year after the Church of Satan in 1967. The London Jewish Cultural. So you've got the gist of it. It's fraud all the way throughout, coming in more royal companies here. And this is coming in, just a quick link just to show you from the royal companies, you then link into BlackRock. You may or may not be aware how huge BlackRock is. It appears as though they're using that as a massive channeled company to launder everything through. And they appear now to be getting the contract to rebuild Ukraine. And you've probably heard about the mineral deal that America's reached with Ukraine to use minerals, or is it fossil fuel? I can't remember, from Ukraine. That will tie into all of this crime against humanity that they are committing. And with BlackRock. Here's BlackRock, Smaller Companies Trust. You can see the previous names here, originally called North Britain, British Canadian Investment Company from 1906. Okay, going back almost, remember, to the Israel Defense Force company that we saw. Okay, that was created in 1903. This was 3 years after. And then later, you can see the name Merrill Lynch at the top. Merrill Lynch ties in to the Bank of America. And it's a criminal company. That BlackRock company is criminal. It's fraudulent. Should never have been allowed to trade. Liverpool Victoria Company then linking in with Bournemouth. You can see the Gates, County Gates, Bournemouth address. And then we have links then to Japan companies based in Edinburgh. AXA Insurance, more Atlas. Okay, remember Atlas, we're going to come to that later, how that ties in with CERN. Children's Promise. And then we have, start making links then through to the media control. Okay, companies that dissolved as I'm exposing the fraud. March 2022, linked to the Scottish Daily Record, Newsday Limited. Then Media Scotland. Remember, they've got all of them controlled as part of the fraud, because if they control the information, that means they control you through their crime and exploit and victimize you. That's exactly what they're doing. They have links to NewsQuest and then Lloyds Bank. Remember, I acquired forged Lloyds Bank documents via Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. The complaint has never been finalised with Lloyds Bank, which was literally just to get them to confirm, did they produce those documents or not? They've refused to comment either way. Okay, so we have connections to Lloyds Bank, Merchant Navy, Scottish American Investment Company on the right. Remember, this is international fraud, everybody. The Royal Mint Museum on the left, and the British Land Company, Public Limited Company. All of the registration systems are fraudulent as part of this. That means none of the registration has ever legally or lawfully happened. Not too sure if it's both of those words, but certainly one of them. Okay, this includes marriages, birth certificates, all criminal and fraudulent and never existent due to this forgery. So let's go back. Oh, just connections now again. JP Morgan. Let's go back to the CERN document, because that's what we really want to focus on here. In fact, before we do that, I keep seeing things that I need to tell you or like to tell you. So that JP Morgan company was started in 1929, okay? That becomes relevant in a moment in relation to the Pharaoh resurgence. And the company names you can see here, they changed it as I started to make inquiries within the company. You can see at the top there, 2nd of February 2022. Okay, that's when I'm starting to really make the inquiries, early stages of the inquiries, asking to see the accounts. That is also the same month that supposedly the special military operation by Vladimir Putin started in relation to Ukraine. All part of the deception, everybody. They're all in on it. That's a fraudulent company, and then we make links to the Royal London Pooled Pensions Company. That features in the Rishi Sunak document that then links in back into the royal family, but also to the Flemings and to the Hakluyt company, which links to the Russian government. And the Flemings are also connected to a Ukrainian company, Kyiv Limited, which shows it's all a deception. 100%, everybody. There is absolutely no question whatsoever. And remember, I was in the police for 18 years. So that company that we were talking about, the Royal London Pooled Pensions Company, was started in 1971, the same year as the World Economic Forum. And they changed their name on the 15th of November 2002, and no other time other than the year after the World Trade Center disaster. And I just wanted to show you a bit more research around the Nova Music Festival, okay, with a bit of, because supernova, the word supernova features as well. It started, this company, Supernova International Racing 2012, the same year as the Higgs boson particle that we're going to come to in a minute, linking into CERN. And they changed their name at no other time other than when I'm exposing the fraud, and continue to do so on the 1st of March 2023. You then, via that company, have links to Thunderball Limited. Remember we've got the Flemings linked in here and the James Bond connection. Okay. And there's fraud all the way through this research, Jordans and Sons. And then the Ferrari Owners Club. Okay, remember, they're laundering taxpayers' contributions through this system of crime, buying themselves cars, luxury holidays, properties, drugs, sex parties, you name it. This is how they are managing to control all of this. And here you have the Ferrari Owners Club, which itself was started in 1967, the same year of the London Law Agency. And here you go, you have the London Law Agency on its incorporation document. So it's a criminal company linking to Ferrari. And then via the Ferrari company, you then make connections to Sherborne. If you've been following my evidence, you will know the importance of Sherborne, tying into my wife's previous employee, tying into the leader of Qatar, who was educated within Sherborne, which is in Dorset, everybody. And then we have links to German companies, HBOS International, so banking companies that are going into liquidation as the exposure continues. So I just thought that would be quite interesting to show you some of those links. And then Freemasons of Bristol. It's there, isn't it? It's all there. And you can verify all of it. Another Siemens company. Bearing in mind, we're talking about the helicopter crash earlier in America. That is, without a doubt, connected and would be a staged event as a deception in relation to all of this as the exposure continues. Right, let's go back to the CERN document before I get carried away with this. Okay, so now looking back at the CERN Hadron Collider, just a quick bit of research on the Archbishop of Canterbury. This is featured on the Before Iona document, and all of the research surrounding the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, links back in to the international government fraud, the exact same companies, everybody, all right? Including what we've just talked about, the Russian Hackluit company, links very quickly from Justin Welby. But here's some screenshots taken from the evidence, tying in, you can see connections to JP Morgan again, via Justin Welby. And this is where I suspect there's been multiple people trying to deceive me, to lead me in the wrong direction. And I suspect this is part of it, because it appears as though they set up a Companies House record for Justin Welby, and one of those records having a middle name of Portal, Justin Portal Welby. You may or may not know that a portal is another word for a door, or can be referred to as a stargate, and a Stargate to another time and dimension. Some of you may have seen the Stargate movie. I was led to believe that the Stargate project started when I was born in the same year, 1977. And of course, Donald Trump has just recently announced, on the second day of him becoming supposedly the President of the United States, or I suspect that's all been staged deception, because they've controlled the Sequoia, that is the company that actually creates the or counts the votes. Okay, so everything you're seeing is deception, including any voting. It's all controlled. They already decided what they're doing. Anyway, so the Stargate project, that was announced by Donald Trump the day after he became the president for the second time. And remember, he was the president, 45th president, that's 9, and the 47th president, that is 11, 9/11. Okay, bearing in mind we're talking about the World Trade Center disaster a lot here. So this was created Justin Portal Welby, and I was drawn into portals and stargates, and via that research it then linked to Rothschild companies again. Okay, we've just been talking about Rothschilds all the way through this, and here we have a link again via Justin Welby. So remember this, okay, portals, stargates, me being led to that information by people that are actually involved in this, okay, and working, I believe, with the Flemings to deceive me. Now, here's a list of James Bond movies, or the research regarding James Bond, and that's because James Bond is a fictional character created by British novelist Ian Fleming, part of the same family, okay, linking to Deborah Fleming. That's confirmed via the research in Companies House. And in 1953, a British secret agent working for MI6 under the codename 007. That's when it was created, 1953. So we're looking at the year 1953 and how relevant this is now moving forward. Also in 1961, producers Albert R. Broccoli and Harry Saltzman purchased the filming rights to Fleming's novels. 1961 is an important year because, according to the research, it's when De La Rue, the main currency producer for the world, purchased Waterloos. One of the first movies then came out in 1962. That's 4 years before the foundation of the Church of Satan and the year before the supposed assassination of JFK, which will all be part of this deception. So we're talking about 1953, and here in 1953 also the Queen was coronated. In 1953, I forgot the word for a minute. Also 1953, MK Ultra began, according to the research. If you're not aware of what MK Ultra is, it was non-consensual mass experimentation on the public, according to the research, okay? Now, this is a very important area in all of this because it appears to tie in personally with me. So we're going to have a look at the MK Ultra and police and military radios document that I'd previously produced. You'll understand how this is all tying into CERN, and later you'll see some very relevant critical evidence and information in relation to CERN and the Hadron Colliders. So this is the research in relation to MK Ultra and the police issue radios and also military radios. And the research surrounding MK Ultra links to Cameron, Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron. That, according to the evidence, appears to be the grandfather of David Cameron, the previous Foreign Secretary of the UK. And he became the Foreign Secretary as I was continuing to expose the evidence, okay? It was all very relevant. And you'll see some, if I have a chance, I'll show some emails again in relation to that. So this is the research for MK Ultra. And you can see here that in 1964, okay, which is 2 years before the foundation of the Church of Satan, according to the research, MK Search was the name given to the continuation of MK Ultra. Further down, it says funding for MK Search commenced in 1965. That's the incorporation year of Jordan's and Sons, the most important company in the fraud, and the funding ended in 1971. Okay, the year of the World Economic Forum creation. And it was about not only non-consensual experimentation, but seeing if they could get members of the public to do things against their free will, including assassination. It would have included, obviously, suicide. And of course, we now have to consider how much of what we're seeing now is mind control techniques, because that was all about mind control. And although it started according to the research in 1953, when you go back and look at Operation Paperclip, that appears to link in with the Nazi regime, where they brought some individuals connected to the Nazi regime over to America, according to the research, and they became scientists, etc., involved in starting the process of experimentation on the masses. And here's research in relation to MK Search. This is a Companies House record now, and it brings up some interesting companies. First of all, one that dissolved in February 2023, as I'm exposing it, had a previous company name of MK Global Search. You can see it here on the bottom here. And it was started in May 2012. Okay, 2 months before the Higgs boson particle was created or found by CERN. So we're going to come to that a bit later, but you need to remember this date. So 2012 it started, 2017, it changed its name. That's the same year as a very important company that links Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump, and the leader of Iran to the royal family via Fleming Co. Limited, I think it's called, that was started in 2017 and is now in the process of dissolving, according to the research. And this on the incorporation document, SDG, Stanley Davis Group. Well, that had already linked to the research of David Cameron. You can see on the right there, via Global X. Okay, so remember Global X, because that becomes, again, relevant in a minute to 2012 and the Higgs boson particle, Global X. So Stanley Davis Group linked throughout the fraud. But another company comes up. When you search MK Search, Company's House, on the right there, it brings up a company in Rochester. Well, that is where I was brought up, predominantly, where I lived with my father from around the age of 11 until I left home, Rochester. And when we go into the company, it links to the fraud. Okay, it appears to be a forged document, incorporation document. And it has Jordan's and Sons, Stanley Davis Group on its incorporation document. On the left, you can see within that company a Fleming, David Fleming, and they connect to Gillingham Masonic Club Company Limited. That's not far away at all from where I lived with my father. Within the company that was created in 1921, it's a fraudulent company. It's not been registered legally and lawfully. And within the Gillingham Masonic Company on the right, Michael Bailey connects to my school. This is the school that I went to when I lived with my father. And on the right, within that school, Darren Small connects to DBS Mortgages Limited. DBS links to Rishi Sunak. On the right, within my school, Paul Kerr links to Waterman Companies. Paul Kerr, it's just to show that he's a reverend. Okay, so I forgot. So it links to the Church of England, I would suggest. And look where they were born, 1947. Okay, they've put all of this information there. And then that connects to, via the Masonic Company, okay, Gillingham Masonic Company, there's an Ernest Waterman, and they connect to Waterman Offshore Companies. And this appears to then make connections to my late father's family, and no direct connections to my father, but very, very closely around him. Now, my dad was a carpenter, and he had contracts for BBC, Wimbledon Tennis Club, British Telecom, HT Webbs, which was a cheese manufacturing company, which then the research shows links in through to Thales very quickly, that we mentioned earlier, military company, and also through to the Arla company and the controversy surrounding Bovaer being put into the food chain. I suspect that was a deliberate attempt to poison the masses, or they're trying to make it seem as though they're poisoning the masses. And we're going to come to the theories in all of this later. So you have links to Waterman offshore accounts, and then going and researching this further, it then makes connections through to Olympic Games companies again, and football companies, and then links back into the rapid response teams, okay, who are clearly part of this, okay, with their actions towards, and you can see through the research surrounding key members leading them, and then that links back into the Fleming family in Exbourne Manor. You can see here connections to 788, 790 Finchley Road. If you search Finchley Road fraud, you'll see an article that mentions that exact address, links to dictatorship and mafia. So you can see how quickly this links back into my life personally. Okay, I used to work with my dad many years ago. Before I was in the police, I joined the police in 2000. And then further down on the document, I've just shown research surrounding the police radios and the military radios, which appear to be linking into all of the same companies again, and creates a risk to anyone in the police or military. And of course, you had the police radios or the radio systems exploding in, was it Hezbollah? Was it last year, I believe. And I suspect that's all tying in with this, and potentially a plan to assassinate on a mass scale the police and the military. Back to the CERN Hadron Collider document. Hopefully this is all making sense. Obviously, it's very difficult to show the evidence simply and quickly. I need to show you, and I need to show it in a way that you can verify it, okay? Because you shouldn't just trust me. You need to see the truth with the evidence, and that's what I'm trying to do. And also, it's important that those that are running this system know that it's over for them. Okay, now, of course, that becomes dangerous, but there is no other way through this other than to collaboratively work to maintain peace and prevent chaos in a way forward for the world in all of this. So let's get into specifics now for the Hadron Collider, but we're going to do that in the next part because we've done half an hour. So come back, please, for part 3. Thanks very much.